Off to Worldcon. Got a day pass for today, Saturday. I'm going to be meeting up with some of my Discord friends, going to some talks, maybe even buying a book or two. Watch the space.
And personal belongings with you when leaving. This is
Hi guys, if you've got luggage, please use the elevator.
Hi there, I've got a day pass online. Where do I book in?
Is it for Worldcon?
Aye.
You can registration desk further up, outside hall 4 on the right hand side up there.
Thank you. Is it for Worldcon? What do you think?
He's kilted up.
Fabulous!
Hello?
Hello, how are you?
Your powers of
I love your
persuasion
kilts.
worked.
Oh well,
Of course.
love the kilt.
Books, meeting friends, friends who love books, big conferences. Yes. So here we are. Just met my pals, Ross and Laura. Met my other pals, Mayor and Andrew, and Ross and Laura the day before. Because I'd gone over on the Friday to meet Mayor because she was bringing the Wheel of Time, books 1, 2 and 3, to make up for the collection I had, which consisted of only book 14. So now I've got 1, 2, 3 and 14. And Mayor, I thank you so much for bringing them all the way up from the south of England, I'm guessing. Kent, I think she lives. So thank you for that. And what a fun meeting it was. I met them for 10 minutes outside on the Friday and they were like, you need to get a day pass, you need to get a day pass. And I was like, day pass. Okay, wasn't going to go, was a bit like, I don't know, but then I went and it was amazing. And now I'm buzzing from it, even though it's now Thursday and everyone's home and they've already put their vlogs out and I haven't put mine out, and I'm like, how do you make a vlog about such a big event and make it good and fun and interesting? So you've seen my travel sequence, I'm there, met Ross and Laura, met Mayor a wee bit later on, we sat down, we had coffee and then we just wandered round and I went into the big hall. They went off to talks and I got overwhelmed at just how big the place was and how much there was to see. When I first went into the big hall, I was like filming every little stand, thinking this is amazing, this is amazing. And after like an hour I was getting a wee bit overwhelmed, you know, because it was so big. So in that respect, I think Going for one day is perhaps not enough because there are talks, there's an overwhelming amount of dealers stuff to look at, people to meet, sounds and sights and smells, you know. So one day isn't really enough to catch the whole thing, but rather than be bummed out that I didn't go for longer, I'm actually choosing gratitude over the fact that I did go, because I nearly didn't, you know. So gratitude, that's what I'm focusing on. And to get to meet people that I know online and hadn't met in real life, and they're even nicer people in real life than they are online. So yeah, it was a really, really worthwhile thing to go to. I only went to 2 talks. I went to a book launch that was only because I'd heard of one of the authors, Emily H. Wilson. So it was 8 different authors. They spoke about their books for 3 minutes each. And we got to sit round and go and meet the authors and eat cake. And I was surprised because I was expecting all of the authors launching books to have said books for sale at the launch, but they didn't. In fact, some of them didn't even have arcs or anything. So that was a bit weird. And it turned out I didn't know Emily H. Wilson because I'd mixed her up, as apparently a lot of people do, with Emily Wilson, who has translated Odyssey and Iliad. I thought that's who she was, and she's written a book called Inanna and Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was the book that's just come out. Because I've read Snow Crash, I've heard of Inanna and some of the stuff that's mentioned in the blurb, which sounded super interesting. And I was hoping she'd have both books there and would be able to sign them and sell them, and I'd be like, yay, and then I'd bring them home and put them over there. But she didn't, so I didn't get those books, but I will at some point because they sound really good. And the other talk I went to was Cozy Fantasy, a cozy science fiction fantasy, which I went to with Ross from Hardy's Books, and only because I didn't really know where else to go, because the list of events was quite overwhelming. Hundreds and hundreds of them, literally. When I looked online to try and choose which ones I wanted to go to, I was like, So Ross said he was going to Cozy Science Fiction Fantasy. I thought, that sounds quite interesting, because I don't even know where that is. So I went along, and it was quite an eye-opener. You know, it turns out that cozy fiction is something I know a little bit about, but I didn't know that that's what it was. For example, there are a couple of scenes in War and Peace which make me think of cozy fiction, or rather, which are cozy fiction, which the talk made me think of, which I would never have understood before. The scene where Nikolai Rostov is going across the bridge at the Battle of Austerlitz, and he's looking at the clouds and the scenery, and you get descriptive writing about, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's not cozy, I don't know, maybe I've misunderstood, but it was a really interesting talk that's kind of kept me thinking as I come home and wonder what it's all about. So that was a good talk, and that was it, really. Once I came out of there, I had to leave to go and catch my train, and missed a few things, and now I'm watching Ross and Laura's vlog and thinking, oh, the stuff that I could have gone to, but no, gratitude. My favourite moment, though, apart from meeting Ross and Laura and Mayor and Andrew, had to be meeting the author of this book, The Dance of Shadows. Rogba Payne just happened to come up to our lunch table, and I didn't know who he was. He had a different colour badge on. I thought, well, maybe he's an author. And they got talking about books. Introductions were made, but I still didn't know who he was really. And as I was listening to them discussing books, it came to light pretty quickly that he was an author, and he'd written a book that Ross has reviewed on his channel. They'd met before, and so I said, would you mind if I run off and get your book and have you sign it for me? So he was on board with that. So that's what I did. I ran off and got this one from the Waterstones bookstall in the dealer's hall. Turns out I could have got a nicer one with black sprayed edges from Inkstone Books, but I couldn't find that. And I was feeling a bit panicky to try and find it and get back to the table, so I wasn't making him wait. So I got this one from Waterstones, and he signed it for me, and he did this little doodle, which I just love. Look at that. So that's a vulture. He's drawn a vulture for me because there are vultures in the book and it says beware. So I'm looking forward to reading that, and I'm looking forward to it, not just because I know it's going to be a great book, because I have watched Ross's review video, but also because now I've got a personal connection, I've got a memory. So yeah, that was great. And then I came home and felt really quite emotional, feeling really pleased that I'd gone, really pleased with myself for getting myself out the front door, getting on the boat and heading over there. And just really, I mean, it's consolidated that feeling that I have, that books are what I want to make my life about as much as I can. And I do feel a bit of overwhelm just in the fact that I'd like to read all of the books that I saw there. And, you know, as I watch more and more science fiction and fantasy booktube reviews and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, I want to read all that stuff, but I've got to remember who I am and what I'm all about. And so stuff like this, Orlando Figes, A People's Tragedy, the history of the Russian Revolution, is enormously important to me, as is fantasy, as is literary fiction, as are crime thrillers, as, you know, on and on and on. Everyone's book journey is unique. So when I go to conferences like this one and it's all about science fiction and fantasy, I tend to think, oh, I want to, you know, all the books. But then I've got to chill out and remember that I don't have to read all the books, nor can I ever, nor will I ever. It's impossible. So, yeah, that's what I take from this experience, is that I suppose it's about the friendships and the connections. Getting to meet people who talk about books and that we can share time with in real life. It's just wonderful. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Thanks for watching. If another one comes up, I would heartily recommend that you get to it if you can. If you're on the fence about it because of anxiety or neurodiversity or whatever it is, find a way to overcome and just go and meet some people, because yeah, it's worth it.